welcome back to Drone Economy, where we discuss all things autonomous transportation. And today we want to discuss a single company that's made numerous headlines in the last couple of months. Its stock price has jumped greater than 10 times in the past 3 months, and it really continues to lead the way in the field of UAM, or urban air mobility. And this is EHang. And today we'll cover the background of the organization, business fundamentals, and some of the recent updates that they've had.
Yeah, it sounds great. We're looking, this company is just taken off like a flying car. It's been doing well.
Quite literally.
Quite literally. So sure, if you haven't heard of them, get ready. It's very exciting stuff. If you have, hopefully we'll give you some insight into where they fit in the industry and where they're going from here. I think we're just going to start out a little on their background, just give a wider view of who they are. And so EHang, they've been around since December of 2014, and they have really become the main company in China, at least, that's spearheading this autonomous aerial vehicle, AAVs. There are two companies in China that appear to have been commissioned to lead these charges for flying vehicles. One is DJI, which many people know that is the main maker of drones that are more smaller and commercial for flying around. And EHang is the other company that most people don't know that is taking on the lead for those larger personal transport vehicles that you will actually go into, as opposed to a drone that flies around without, much smaller and without you in it, for more for commercial purposes. The company's headquarters in Guangzhou. That's the main industrial and commercial province inside of China, in southern China near Hong Kong. Although for some reason the company's based out of, registered out of the Cayman Islands. So that was a little surprising to me. The founder is Haozi Hu. He is chairman and CEO. This is the second company he has run. He ran another supply company before this. I think he has a background as a professor at Princeton as well. So he has ties to the United States. And the really amazing progress they've had in just a couple of years.
Yeah, wow. 2014. So in just 6 years, they've brought this, I'm sure what started as just a prototype, to life, and are now already transporting people in test sessions and beyond, like commercially in China.
That is absolutely, they have an actual operating vehicle they've had in the last year. You're absolutely right, Kevin. You and I have seen, that's how we got so interested in it. Both you and I were sharing the videos at the same time of their test runs. What I didn't know is they had a test run in January of 2016 with their their one-person AAV at CES, but no one really paid attention. They really started hitting it with their 216 model. That's been their main model ever since then. It's 2 passengers, and I think 6 rotors. I forget what the one means, but I think it was 1 compartment. But this right here is their core product, which looks pretty cool. And this thing actually flies around. They've had a number of them produced. The latest big demo they had, I think, was in Seoul.
And no pilot. This is autonomous flight.
That's right.
Takeoff and landing, VTOL.
That's the most amazing part about it, is that it's really ahead of its time, because it can fly around with no pilot, and yet it's not allowed to fly with passengers with no pilot. So it's the first probably couple of years it's in operation anywhere, they'll have a pilot all the time, but it doesn't need it. And actually it's designed to work better without a pilot. So that way, they have, I'll get into a little bit, but they have a whole theory that this is not for individuals to fly around. This is really a transportation network. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But right now, it costs about $300,000 to build each one of these things, which really is not a lot when you consider that it's a transportation item, vehicle that can really make back its money fast if it's flying all 20 hours a day. Low maintenance overall. Right now, the flight time is only 21 minutes with our batteries now, which are not the greatest. But and I know battery power is just drastically increasing. And the model right now is almost 2 years old. I'm sure when they introduce the next iteration, flight time will double. And it takes 120 minutes to charge. That's way too long. So they have some work to go. The flight actually is said to be noisy in this type of vehicle. That it is a very loud, buzzy sound still from that you hear with drones, but they are working on that. And they said that should be resolved by the time they have their public operation in place.
Yeah, I know that that's a minor challenge for these drones. There's other priorities to solve for, but it is a pretty consistent issue from what I'm hearing, even in small non-passenger drones.
Yep.
That I feel like someone's going to crack that nut eventually, and then it'll be there'll be a widespread solution for all these companies.
I totally agree with like we saw this year with Skydio. Their new iteration is much quieter, and that's being improved. And I think with the smaller size blades, they'll have some noise canceling component. Unlike a helicopter, there's no way to reduce that sound. So it'll be much quieter. Right now, to tell the truth, they do sound a little bit like the Blade Runner vehicles flying around, that buzzy sound. But they're working on it. So as you know, that will be something they will resolve. They said that should not be an issue in the long run. But they have had orders, unlike every other company in the space, really. They're ramping it up. They had 3 units in 18, 61 units in 19. All 60 of those units were the 216, that 2-person model. And then in this last year, through at least Q3, they had 48 delivered, and it was a tough year, with COVID. So they're supposedly behind by 33 units, but they're drastically increasing it, and this is before real commercial use.
Yeah, and so I'll tell you that there's been a few announcements just in January of this year that really are positioning them to continue to lead in this field. They're partnering up with AMU LED, which is Air Mobility Urban Large Experimental Demonstration Project in Europe. They're partnering with a number of cities where they can test this system and start to build this out and scale it out, and the cities and the governments can understand what regulations need to be in place. But some real movement here. And then I also just read today, I think they announced that they were selected as a key member of Reinvent Air Mobility, which is an initiative in Paris that wants to accelerate the maturity of both the UAM ecosystem and the regulatory framework. And they were like 1 out of 150 applicants out of 25 countries that were chosen for this. And really the idea is to prepare for the 2024 Olympic Games.
Oh, really?
In Paris.
Yeah, in Paris, yes.
They're trying to build out this ecosystem for UAM, which I think they're going to want to really show off for the world when the Olympics are there.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. So
they're going to begin testing in June of this year under the supervision of the French Civil Aviation Authority.
That's excellent. So they're expanding out. I'm glad to hear that. I know I haven't heard of too much outside of Asia, and specifically China and Korea. So that's good. I know they did one small test in North Carolina, in the U.S., but that is big news for them to be over there. Hopefully they'll expand to that market.
I've heard of a number of cities in Singapore, Dubai, Paris, Spain, and the Netherlands.
Wow, that's excellent.
All that are partnering in some way with EHang.
And I know that is the Chinese government's really pushing it for them to take this on strong. It's like an open checkbook.
Yeah.
China has never been able to make inroads with airplane manufacturing or helicopter manufacturing. So just like in cars, they've never made inroads, and their way in is through electric cars. They're planning to do the same here, where they'll leapfrog the rest of the world by taking on these flying cars. Really, is what they are.
Yeah. Robotaxis. Or
Robotaxis.
air taxis.
Yes.
It'll be interesting to see how they're able to scale in the US, knowing some of the conflict that exists there now. But still, I mean, they're making serious headway in Europe.
Yeah. I have my thoughts are that they will not go into the US for some time, because I just don't think they can, even without the restrictions and the headache, if they're there for them, I just think they can't do it. I think they physically they're probably ordered to focus mostly on Asia right now, and also, or directed, I should say. And just the amount of manufacturing they can do, they can't produce that many at the moment.
Right.
So I think it will be a while, which in a way it's good, because there's a number of operators besides EHang that are in development right now, and each will have room to breathe and develop their technology without interference at the moment. So I think it's a good thing.
Not to mention, I know that there is a lot of Tesla fans out there that think that, or envision Tesla already having a lock on that that industry in the US.
Yep, absolutely. They maybe one day. I don't know.
It'd be interesting to see how that plays out.
Very interesting. And then then I was mentioning before that how they really envision this. They envision it as a full, not just the vehicle, but it's just a full system. So they're developing a full transportation hub, in the sense that they're developing these airports, or vertiports all over the place when they go into a city, and they'll have a area where people show up, and if they fly from point to point, it's not get in your own EHang and fly somewhere. You literally need, they don't plan for it to be like that anytime soon, ever. It's really just something that is programmed to fly from point to point, and there'll be hundreds of them at each point, and they just kind of, you go in a room, and and it just pops up, and you go into it, and then it flies to the second point, and you could go on to other points, but it's a point-to-point operation.
Yeah, so I think that's the thing that first attracted us to that company, or to EHang, is some of these concept videos that exist out there that are just mind-blowing, even like as a concept video, and then you go to the next video, and it's actually a real life flight with someone in it.
I know.
Of the same car that you just watched conceptually fly around.
That's right.
I think some of the storage and recharging of the battery, some of those garage prototype videos that they show, those are probably not developed yet, but to see this vehicle in flight is really a wonder.
It is. It's amazing. It's hard to believe it actually exists. It's not just a theoretical thing coming up. And as you mentioned, a couple of these, they've, over the last couple of years, they've had contracts to go into another market, a number of markets around the world. I think you went through that. I'm not going to go through it again here. The only last one I wanted to mention is that in the city, in the Guangzhou province in China, they're building, that's their biggest real project right now. They're definitely building something that's more tourism oriented, but it's going to have tours of the city all the time. And they're building a huge hotel around this. So it's going to land on the top of the hotel, and you stay at the hotel really to go around the city, but also to take the rides out of the vertiport that they're going to build there. So that's going to be their showcase prototype. and they're planning to have that up and running in like, probably 2 years from now. That's they're moving on this pretty fast. So this is their thing they're pushing everything on. The other one that they have a commitment for is in Seoul, and that's supposed to be 2025. But we'll see how that ramps up. A lot of times I see Korea introduce projects that are pushed out a couple of years. They want the Korean urban air mobility roadmap is what they have in place for it to be launched around 2023 to 2025. We'll see. It'll be amazing if that's in place as well.
Yeah.
I know when they did the demo, they put a bag of rice in the EHang 216 that was the same weight as a person to demo that, and it flew around the bay.
So it does raise some questions when you, particularly when you watch the videos of people actually riding in these, is what if one of these things goes down or loses power or malfunctions in some way, right? I gotta imagine that they're building in safety devices that I'm thinking either like an ejection seat or some sort of flotation device that as it lands, it'll still float if you're over water, or like a parachute of some sort. I mean, that's large enough to let this thing kind of coast to the ground.
That's a really good question. I'm not sure what they have for that. I mean, the only thing I know about that definitely we have to find that out. But the only thing I know about is that because they do have multiple, they have the 6 blades, that if one goes out, I think if 2 go out, they'll still be able to safely land. Mm-hmm. And that's the kind of the fallback, as opposed to a helicopter where one goes out, you're gone. But right. But I don't know, in case of something else, battery short or anything, who knows, anything happens. Yeah. I don't know what the safety precaution is, and that'll be good to know.
But it's not hard to envision what they could put in place there, right? Particularly since the blades are on the side. I really could envision some sort of parachute device that activates and helps slow the speed back down to ground.
Yep. You're probably right. It could be easily put in place.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it though, but that would be, I'm sure they have something like that. I can't imagine they'd get approval without some fail-safe mechanism.
Right. Yeah, it's just something I've thought about as I've watched these videos.
I like it. So I want to talk about this. The UAM industry, we've been calling them AAVs, but it's also really called the UAM, what is it? Unmanned aerial mobility, I think.
I think that's urban air mobility.
Okay, I think you're right. You're right. So the industry overall has a number of competitors. We mentioned, I had some of them here, but
yeah, so I know of Joby. There's Joby Aviation there on the screen. Yep. I know you got a couple of big ones like Airbus and Boeing.
Yep, Lilium.
That are developing concepts.
So there's a couple out there.
Lilium.
Yep, Lilium is going forward with their thing in Orlando for a Volaport. But with COVID, that actually had an impact on the industry in a negative way, positive way for EHang, I guess, because the competition has been reduced because of it in ways. Boeing, as you mentioned, they were forced to stop development of their next AAVs to conserve cash during COVID. So that project's been put on hold. Who knows when that will start up again? Yeah,
I mean, those big players, Boeing and Airbus, they
got killed.
Their cash is from airplanes, right?
That's right.
We know what happened in 2020 with that. So
I mean, these guys, I imagine they'll just try to buy someone out later rather than try to do it on their own.
Yeah.
Uber sold its Uber Elevate to Joby, so that's one less competitor in a sense.
Yeah.
Airbus, you mentioned, supposedly they haven't released any news about the City Airbus division for a long time. So I have the feeling it's the same as Boeing. as you mentioned. Volocopter, you mentioned before, as a Singapore project that we'll get into one day. And that's like, they're planning to launch that in 2023. And I think there's Lilium and I don't know who else that's really the main competitors that are out there right now. So it's a small club. I had that somewhere.
Yeah.
Overall, it's a small club. Oh, here, Bell. I don't know. I haven't really come across that too much for what they're doing.
No, I haven't read about them.
Helicopter, Lilium Jet, Joby, and Joby's also backed by Intel, Toyota, and JetBlue. So it's interesting. But I think because it's small, the small number of competitors, and it's such an upstart industry, they're not bumping into each other. Like different cities are doing contracts with them to run their own tests. And I think that Olympic showcase will be interesting for the sort of the world to see it for the first time.
Yeah, you know, as I think through that partnership with Paris for the Olympics, you know, it's almost like a World's Fair event, right?
That's
like,
right. It is.
We're gonna display this new technology, and it's gonna sort of awoken the public to this new technology and really make them aware of it, and I guess almost sort of comfortable with it to some extent.
Yeah, I guess we have to go.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if they had any representation at CES recently.
Well, it said 16. I haven't heard any articles since then. A couple of years ago.
Oh, you know, we didn't mention there in the competition was Cadillac.
Oh yes, Cadillac, the virtual rendering. Yes,
that's right. They were at CES.
Yes, they were at CES. The car that doesn't exist, it was there. Yeah. Yes, should be interesting. That was cool looking though. If they could do it, it's a good entrance.
The Cadillac of air taxis.
The Cadillac of air taxis. I liked it. We forgot to mention that. No contracts for them yet.
Yeah. So what do you got here? Some financials.
Nice, ugly looking slide for you. Well, actually, I had a couple of things first, not to make this too long, but I'll go through these very quick. If this actually works, well, I want to click. Oh, so this is what I meant to show before. This is their sort of air mobility platform operation, the urban air mobility platform. So they have it all planned out, man. It's very impressive. It's like a full, and it reminds me of Apple and Tesla in that way, that they have everything designed from start to end and how this should work. And it can't be, nothing in the chain can be broken. It has to be all made by them pretty much.
Right.
I don't know where they're getting their batteries from, to tell you the truth. I haven't looked into that to know how that's working, but it is interesting how they have their passenger launch pads, changing platforms where they go in. It looks like an amusement park ride, how these things fold up and then they kind of shoot out. I don't know. I'll show a video over this. And over here,
the non-passenger grade AAVs, those I guess are meant for the logistics operations and carrying equipment.
Yes, so that is logistics. You said we haven't mentioned them, the logistics, and also they have a division for firefighting that is meant to fight fires in high rises.
I saw that.
It won't have a person in it, but it'll be able to carry up, instead of a person, the weight's going to be used to carry up water and also equipment and hoses. So that way it could shoot. It's pretty amazing. So they're building a whole division around that, and they're also building an ambulance component. And I don't know
like
if it's an
ambulance to bring airlift, but also delivery of medical equipment.
That's right.
Cargo transport, yeah.
So they're going to have full, and you can see logistics, I guess, is part of it. So I haven't seen what those look like, but they do have other divisions. And I noticed they still put on their drone light shows, so they still make the smaller drones as well. Here was some of the competition, which I should have pulled up before. You can see it's Bell. We have Volocopter. This says if it's autonomous or not.
Yeah, why don't you put that in present view? It's a little hard to see right
You're too smart here. Let me see.
Right there. Yeah.
Loading. So we have EHang, Volocopter. They are not autonomous. So they're going to be piloted for now. Lilium is autonomous, but they are going to have a pilot for a long time, even though they control it remotely. Airbus, as we said, is having trouble. Boeing put on the rocks for now. Bell Helicopter has the Nexus. I don't know much about it. I've heard of it, but to tell you the truth, I haven't had a chance to look that up much. But that's not autonomous. And Kitty Hawk, we forgot about them.
Yeah,
they're going to be a big player. We have to do a presentation on them because the Kitty Hawk is going to come from behind. They're very good.
Yeah.
I think the guy that used to run the autonomous unit at Google runs that. And Joby Aviation, of course. So we have this slide we don't really need, but one of the big arguments is we have helicopters already. Why do we need this? And obviously there's a lot of reasons why. No pilot cost, vehicles cost a lot less, much higher safety because there's not just one single propeller, as we mentioned. I'm duplicating stuff from our presentation here. Fully autonomous, lower noise, obviously, but there's still. And the one thing we didn't mention is that there's much less repair and maintenance on these vehicles than any other vehicles out there. There's just no moving parts aside from the blades. And those can be popped in and off to replace them all the time. These can go run all day and night, and you don't need to really repair them at all. You swap out batteries every now and then that wear down, and that's it. It's amazing. And of course, zero emission, and they just take off easily. Even a helicopter needs much more ground than you can't fit like 20 in the space that one helicopter goes. So anyway, sorry for the diversion there.
Significantly lower costs will lead to higher adoption.
You got it.
More safety, better for the environment.
Yes.
Quicker, less maintenance. I mean,
that's what it's all about. And their financials, we don't need to get into that too much here, but they basically have very low debt, lot of financing and cash on hand from their backers. They're making income. Actually, I mean, they're still at a loss in a way, but they're still almost breaking even. Their book value has been increasing each year, which is what you want to see from a company. If their book value is not increasing, something to worry about. Sales growth definitely has been over 10% a year. Their ownership is 40% of it is owned by their owner, Mr. Hugh, I think. And that is great. When you have a founder running a company, he's in it for the long term. He's not doing it for each quarterly profit, which is what you want to see. And they're reinvesting their capital. They have a big return on capital that they're seeing in a positive way. It's 17%. So it's green lights all around for this company.
I saw a headline, I think actually while I was looking at videos while we're talking, that said EHang predicted to be profitable in 1 to 2 years. So definitely something I'll be digging into more. I'd also like to watch more or hear more interviews with the founder. Just to understand his thoughts on the company, the industry, his future thoughts, all that.
Yeah, it would be it always good to hear the inside of the founder. You really get a clue into their larger objective, and especially when it's a founder, because it's not just a CEO giving a talking point. It's really he knows where they're headed. So cool stuff. I'm very excited about this company.
Yeah, and publicly traded in the US.
And skyrocketing.
Yeah. Yeah, very much.
Went down a bit today, but still, it's way up there from where it was a month ago.
Yeah, lots of big headlines, and I think people around the world are starting to see the opportunity there and the trajectory that they're on.
Yes, absolutely. So good stuff. We'll
yeah, so that's
like
it.
this.
Brief overview of EHang. If you liked the conversation, give us a thumbs up.
Yep, we'd love
Let
to
us
hear
know your comments about EHang.
Absolutely. And until next time, we'll dig into maybe one of EHang's competitors and continue the conversation.
Yep. All right, that'll end it for today. Thanks.
Thanks.